King Charles may finally be starting to realise that there is absolutely no reason to work with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. This idea that anything positive can come from having an ongoing relationship with them is for the birds. Paula Frolic Uncensored, reporting that the monarch has withdrawn his invitation for Harry and Meghan to come to Sandringham over the summer. And the best news is that this is a response to what she describes as the Australia trauma tour. And I am delighted by this because I have been really disappointed to see Charles's courtiers brief to the Daily Mail, oh no, we're not going to punish them. We don't want to upset them. The titles aren't going to go. The line of succession isn't going to go. No, you've got to do something, Charles, because this is getting worse. And they're embarrassing you. They're embarrassing you in Ukraine. They're embarrassing you in Washington, D.C. They're embarrassing you on the internet. The royal family is actually coming through this whole series of events pretty well. But Harry and Meghan are going to be the constant thorn in your side if you don't listen to William and take further action. So that's why this is great news. Paula goes on to reveal, I'm told by another friend of the king, that Charles won't invite them, especially not after their trip to Australia. Harry, who likes to speak about anti-bullying, as seen as a bully inside the palace. Absolutely, he is. When he doesn't get what he wants, he stamps his foot like a child and not only does what he was going to do anyway, but then tries to emotionally blackmail his father with his own children, Archie and Lily. An invitation was already unadvised, especially after Centre Bali, via its chairwoman Sophie Chandoka, sued Harry for defamation. But the trip to Australia was the straw that broke the camel's back. It would indeed make the king look very weak if he did have them to Sandringham. Harry and Meghan will come, but it won't be at the king's invitation, my source said adamantly. We shall see. Paula, great to have you. And this is such good news because the idea that King Charles was still going to go through with this invitation, given the way that Harry and Meghan keep on humiliating him and keep on trying to cause damage for the British royal family, I think was going to be very difficult for the public to stomach. So what are you hearing about this decision? I need you to do something for me right now. It is free. It is easy. It is simple. Just hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's because over 50% of you watching this video haven't done that yet.
Well, let's go back to the invitation. And I use that term very, very loosely because it was Harry who once again went to the media and said, well, of course, we'd entertain. We'd love to have an invitation, something along the lines of we'd entertain an invitation to Sandringham. Of course, he wants that because if you're invited by the king, you automatically get state-funded security, which is all he cares about. He doesn't want to spend any more dollars of his own, quickly running out. And then he put on, it would be lovely for the family to meet the king. And of course, it would depend on who was there, AKA William and Catherine. And it was, at the time, it was blatant emotional blackmail for the king. However, the king and the palace did put something out, a statement out that was quite strongly worded. And he would love to meet his grandchildren. He's only met Lily once for a hot second. Archie possibly twice. But after Australia, no can do. I mean, what's he going to do? How is he going to deal with it when Meghan shows up wearing a dress and it's immediately sold online? We're going to what to meet the in-laws, what to wear to a palace, what to wear when hanging out with your dreaded stepmother. It's insane and it's tacky and it cannot happen. And he also knows, as does everyone at this point, that Harry and Meghan have zero cachet right now, not in the States, not in the UK, not anywhere. And in order to get it back, they need some royal shine on them. They need to just rub themselves with a little royal on all over and let it be known that once again, they're back in. But because here's the deal. What's going to happen? The next time the palace upsets Harry and Meghan, do they go on CBS? Do they talk to Gayle King? Do they give another Oprah interview? Does Harry come out with another book? Does Meghan? It's way too dangerous. It's way too ridiculous. But after the shopping website, no. You're going to sell your trauma closet for cash? Absolutely not. This is disgusting.
And the thing is, Paula, I almost think Harry has already failed the test in terms of the US state visit next week. Because, of course, if they had any sense, and we know they don't, but I think even for them, surely they will just shut the F up for 4 days, surely. Although you never know with them.
No.
You never know with them. But they've already blown it for him, because Harry's visit to Ukraine and his attack on Donald Trump and the American administration specifically, literally 4 days before King Charles is touching down in Washington, D.C. To me, that was the ultimate slight to his father. Proof, actually, Paula, that this dude is quite sick in the head when it comes to his dad, because in public, he'll quite happily say, like after the meeting last year, oh, I'm just so worried about him. I need to spend my time. Remember when he gave that awful BBC interview and basically said that he's worried that his father was going to die before a reconciliation, and it's all about him. But then when it comes to a trip like this, which remember is already incredibly stressful for King Charles, he's having to stop his cancer treatment in order to go. If you look at the itinerary, Paula, which I know you'll be all across, I mean, it's actually, for someone who is going through cancer treatment, very, very taxing. You know, it's a big tour, this. You know, you've got the 2 days in Washington, D.C., travel to New York, big day in New York, then the final day in America, in Virginia, before going to Bermuda on his own without Camilla. I mean, this is a big itinerary. What's the one thing he didn't need? Stress caused by Harry and Meghan. And this is the thing that William is always pointing out. Stress has a real role in terms of how someone deals with cancer. Okay. And Harry keeps on bringing stress. And can you just imagine the scenes in the palace this morning where, well, I think actually Charles is probably at Balmoral, actually, before he leaves. But he was in London. But whichever palace he's at, Paula, he gets told Harry's gone to Ukraine. He's like, oh God, why? Why? Then he gets handed the speech, by the way, written by AI, according to Tom Sykes, which is attacking Donald Trump. And that is stress. That is stress. And that, to me, is an illustration of someone who actually doesn't give a damn about his father. Do you see what I mean?
100%. But I also wonder if Harry would have gone to Ukraine if Australia had gone better.
Good
Australia,
point.
the trip was a disaster.
He had to move the narrative on.
Polls, the post-Australia polls were horrific. And I think he just needs to be in the public eye. I think he's incredibly self-centered. And the one thing that the king and the palace have always said to him is, stop talking to the press, you know, because that's his way of doing it. Well, daddy won't pick up the phone, so I'll call fill in the blank, the Times, the press, the Telegraph, whatever. And it's the same thing he did when he asked for the invitation. He went out there and the palace came back and said, again, stop going public with this, because they see it for what it is. It's a bullying tactic. And for all of Harry and Meghan's chit chat about bullies and anti-bullying and how they're bullied, we all know that they are the actual bullies. Talk to any ex-staff member.
Well, on that very note, Paula, on that very note, I really did enjoy your episode of The Royalist with Tom Sykes this week, where he was talking about this moment with Sarah Fosmo, Prince Harry's chief of staff, where Meghan quite obviously gives her the death stare. And anyone who has worked for Harry and Meghan knows that you get the death stare in public, but what you get in private is strips torn off you.
A tradesman who fixes the toilet, of course you're nice to him because you
Yeah.
need your toilet to work.
Yeah.
And Meghan hasn't learned that rule of, if you want things to work, if you want things to go well, you have to treat the people around you well. It's the same thing. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Same thing that my mother used to say when I first started dating 904 years ago. She said, "Never date a man who's mean to the waiters because that's exactly how he's going to end up treating you." And, TikTok.
So
I
true.
doubt that Sarah is escaped unscathed. The clock is also ticking on how long she's going to work there. But, hey, Harry, this is your bed. You're lying in it. How's it feeling?
No. Well, we know not very good. Because, number one, do you know? I mean, you know everyone in American media, Paula. Are you pals with Dan Wakeford? Do you know him? Have you worked with him before?
I do know Dan, yes.
So he's for people who don't know, he's the guy who was the editor of People magazine. And he was editor of People magazine during the very famous cover where Meghan Markle's friends revealed the truth about Meghan, which of course wasn't the truth about Meghan because it's, oh, she's a really lovely woman. And he also revealed in that edition the letter that Meghan had sent to her father. Then, of course, there was the Us Weekly cover because he moved to Us Weekly from People magazine and tried to turn Us Weekly into the propaganda sheet for Harry and Meghan and sort of aped what People are doing. Now, it didn't work. Dan ended up departing from Us Weekly, and overnight, Paula, they have just announced that they are slashing 50% of their staff, closing the office. So I think people really did reject this idea of Us Weekly as the new People magazine really pushing the Harry and Meghan narrative. Although I would say we all know the media is changing, magazines are dead, newspapers are dead, mainstream media is dead. So I'm not saying that was the only reason behind this closure or this downsizing. However, Dan Wakeford has gone independent now. And what's interesting, Paula, is when you see mainstream media figures like him go independent, the great thing is they are able to start telling the truth much more. And so he has done another big expose, has spent 3 weeks looking into the relationship, the marriage, the finances, the whole works, and has revealed that things are not what he said they were when he was the editor of Us Weekly. The sort of thing that he says they should do and that everyone's saying is that they should do but they won't do is just disappear for a period of time and then try and relaunch. But for me, Paula, a lot of this reporting was very interesting. I mean, he is speaking to these sources very close to the couple who are admitting they are wildly unhappy, who are saying that their differences are, quote, impossible to reconcile, but then at the same time trying to say, oh, but they're still hot for each other. You know, they pulled that whole line out. Oh, they're still really hot for each other. So it's very interesting to me, but what do you make of it?
Oh, honestly, Dan, you know what I make of it? I didn't find anything new or interesting about that article. You and I, Tom Sykes, we've been writing all of this for the last year and a
Yeah,
half.
that is true.
And I also kind of resent it when people spend their career for money saying one thing that's blatantly not true. And now that they're independent, they're going to go say a bunch of things that are actually true and will get them clicks. So I say go with God.
Yeah, I'm always so torn on this, Paula. Can I tell you why? Because in some ways, I think it's great when people do acknowledge the truth whenever it happens, right? So, for example, we've seen Charlotte Griffiths, who is the editor at large at the Mail on Sunday. But remember, she had to get through her court case with Harry.
Right.
And now the Facebook messages have dropped, proving that she was totally right. You know, they clearly had a relationship. My understanding is it was an intimate relationship, you might say. And all of a sudden, now that we've read the messages, people believe her and not him. And all of a sudden, she is prepared to start telling the truth a lot more. But so I don't know. So I'm torn on it, but I do hear what you're saying, because what I guess I wanted was a bit of an acknowledgement from Dan Wakeford that actually he had been pushing the propaganda at People and Us Weekly, and that maybe he had been doing that because he was under commercial pressure to do so, or whatever it was, whereas we didn't get that, did we?
Which I understand. I understand you have a job and all this stuff, but it grates because I have been writing these stories and they are very well sourced and they have all proven to be true. And then the stories that people and at Us Weekly were like, well, look, she's a liar because they said this. And now coming out and basically saying, okay, everything I said was wrong. It smarts a little bit for those of us who have never relied on access journalism and who
100%.
have
And that is the
always
key thing. That is the key thing, because access journalism means you literally just pick up the phone, you swallow whatever they say. And very often, and this is what does upset me, access journalism means you're pissing all over people who have put their neck on the line to report the truth. But I mean, when it comes to the Sussexes, I've literally had this now for 8 years. For 8 years, they have been denying my stories. And then it's like, all of a sudden, for example, I'll give you one this week. Hugo Vickers comes out in his book, and remember, he's a great guy, close confidant of late Queen Elizabeth II, finally comes out and says, oh, yeah, the Queen was worried that Harry and Meghan were wired and that they were secretly recording the conversations and potentially trying to set them up. I mean, I reported that back in 2020, Paula, and at that point, people were calling me a conspiracy theorist, even though, number one, it was incredibly well sourced, the information that I had, which was from inside the royal family. I'd just broken the story of Megxit at that time. But also, we had the pictures. Like, there was actually pictorial evidence showing Harry and Meghan being wired up at these events. So I do understand what you're saying. It is frustrating. At the same time, that I think if people move, the more and more people that move towards the truth, the better. And I do think what this week has shown, Paula, is that Harry and Meghan's allies in the media now, in the mainstream media in America, are really limited. So basically, he now has Town and Country and People magazine. That's it.
Don't forget Vanity Fair. So you look at Sunshine Sax's contacts, and they've been calling up a specific person at Vanity Fair. They've been calling up Town and Country on the regular. There have also been new Instagram sites like Royal Style Watch and some other ones that pop up.
Yeah, we're suspicious of those, aren't we?
It is very fascinating. And you know what? I do want to agree with you. I absolutely am excited for Dan Wooten to keep coming out with the truth and to keep breaking stories and, possibly even giving those of us who have broken them first some sort of hey, good job.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, look, it is a crowded market, but I think the thing is, people understand the truth. People understand the people who have been telling the truth for a long period of time, as you have, as I have, and that does matter. It does make a difference. Well, I wanted to speak to you about King Charles's address to the nation.
Please do.
This week, because I actually think it was really undercovered. I was surprised, actually, that more was not made of this, because this was a king, in my view, Paula, who was hitting back at some of his critics, and I think I'm probably in that camp, and Tom Sykes is probably in that camp, saying that he should consider abdication because of what's going on with Andrew, and also because of what's going on with his health. And you can see in this video message, which was pre-recorded in the library at Balmoral, just how much his health has suffered. But this was the king saying, hell no. Hell no. I sign up to my mother's approach, which is absolutely no abdication. And weirdly, Paula, even though I disagree with him that it's maybe not the right path, I respect him for being so bold about it. This is only the third time outside of the Christmas messages that the king has delivered this type of broadcast. I mean, the first, remember, was just, I think, 2 days after the death of Queen Elizabeth II. And to me, it was very significant. He was saying, no, I'm not abdicating. I am not abdicating.
And I don't blame him, actually. I don't know if he should. What would be nice is if he would be a stronger king and do as his mother did, which is always protect the crown. And by protecting the crown, sometimes you've got to trim the fat. He needs to pull, I believe it was the Queen of Denmark, who basically one day woke up and said, okay, nobody has titles anymore except for my oldest son and his children. And it came as a shock to the rest of the family. But she said, no, this is going to make your lives better. Please trust and believe. The kids' noses were out of joint for a hot minute, but they are family. So they came back together. And that, I think, is what King Charles needs to do. Just, bite the bullet.
Yeah, totally, totally. The problem is, Paula, it's very difficult, isn't it, to be properly committed to such a big role when you are undergoing utterly brutal treatment. Utterly brutal treatment on a weekly basis. I feel for him.
I think he's up for it. I do. I look at this. He has gone through brutal treatment. He's having a horrible time with cancer. He has been the most active king we've seen in years.
True.
Or, well, he was,
True. And we're going to see it next week. We are going to see it next week, and it is going to be fascinating. And of course, Paula is the perfect person to subscribe to over this, because she is very much at the intersection between royal news and American politics. So do make sure you subscribe to the newly renamed, and I love this too, Paula, because there's someone else who claims they're uncensored and they're not really. You know who I might be referring to?
The central claim comes from royal reporting suggesting that King Charles will not extend a summer invitation to Harry and Meghan to stay at Sandringham. According to the report, palace insiders believe inviting the Sussexes back into the royal fold would create unnecessary complications after a series of public controversies. The report argues that recent international appearances, including their Australia visit, have only increased concerns inside royal circles about the possibility of future media attention overshadowing official royal work. Whether these reports are completely accurate remains unconfirmed by Buckingham Palace, but they certainly fit the broader narrative of a relationship that appears far from repaired. If true, it would indicate that Charles is choosing caution over symbolism. Several commentators believe the Australia trip became a turning point. Critics argued that parts of the visit generated significant media attention, while also inviting comparisons to official royal tours. Some royal observers believe this may have reinforced concerns inside the palace about maintaining clear distinctions between working royals and family members who stepped away from official duties. The report suggests that this perceived overlap contributed to hesitation about welcoming the couple back into royal settings such as Sandringham. Whether or not that assessment is fair, it reflects how closely every Sussex appearance continues to be scrutinized. If the reported Sandringham decision is genuine, it may signal that King Charles is prioritizing stability during an already challenging period. With ongoing health concerns and a demanding royal schedule, minimizing additional controversy may simply be viewed as practical leadership. For Prince William and other senior royals, maintaining focus on official duties has also become increasingly important. While reconciliation remains a topic that frequently surfaces in media reports, actions often speak louder than speculation. At the moment, meaningful signs of a full family reconciliation remain limited. Ultimately, this story remains based on media reports rather than official palace confirmation. Still, it highlights just how complicated the relationship between Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and the royal family continues to be. Whether the reported Sandringham decision marks a permanent shift or simply reflects current circumstances remains to be seen. As always, new developments could change the picture quickly. If you enjoyed this breakdown, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe reconciliation is still possible, or has the divide become too great to repair? If you found this analysis informative, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest royal news and commentary. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.